A little bit more help with translations here. Point B prime at 6 comma negative 5 is the image of B at negative 5 comma negative 2 under a translation. Your job is to determine the translation. Well, if you had a coordinate plane in front of you, which all of you do at your desks, you could plot those 2 points. The thing you have to be really careful about with this problem is we're so used to reading it where you're given the pre-image first and then the image, but in this case, they threw you a curveball. They gave you the image first and then the pre-image. So just make sure you're careful. Watch out for your primes. The primes always tell you it's the image after you've transformed something. So we're starting with B at negative 5, negative 2, and we're ending at B prime, 6 comma negative 5. If you have the coordinate plane in front of you, just plot those 2 points and then count. What do you have to do to get from B to B prime, both vertically and horizontally? That will tell you your translation rule. I don't have that luxury, so I have to think about it a different way. So what I'm asking myself currently, if I'm starting with B at negative 5 comma negative 2, I have to ask myself what happened to get to B prime, which is at 6 comma negative 5. So if I isolate my x coordinates first, I have to think about negative 5 plus or minus what gets me positive 6. And then I also have to think about for my x coordinate, or for my y coordinate, excuse me, negative 2 plus or minus what gets me to negative 5. Okay, now if we think about this, let me erase my plus or minus here because I know I'm going to have to do one of those two. Negative 5 to negative or to positive 6, I know that's going to be adding something because negative 5 is less than 0 and 6 is greater than 0. So I'm going to be adding something. Well, what is that something? In this case, the answer is 11. To get from negative 5 to negative 2, I'm going further into the negatives. So in this case, I know I'm subtracting something. Negative 2 minus what gets me negative 5? Well, that's minus 3. So now I can simply take those answers and I can write them over here using all my translation rules. Well, if you remember translation notation, x comma y, we just said we're adding 11 to the x coordinate and subtracting 3 from the y coordinate. If I write that in vector notation, I have an 11 in the x position and a negative 3 in the y position with those fancy grouping symbols. And then finally, my transformation notation would be a capital T, and down here in subscripts, 11 comma negative 3. All of these 3 things mean the exact same thing. I have to move the x coordinate right 3 or right 11 and the y coordinate down 3. Let's take a look at another one. Now for this next one, they give you the coordinate plane here. So I would highly recommend being a counter. And please do not look at the entire triangle. Focus on one set of image and pre-image shapes. I'm going to recommend we look at B and B prime because I don't have to cross through the interior of either triangle to get there. So I'm going to take care of horizontally first. Remember, B is the pre-image. It does not have the prime. So I'm going to start here at B, and I got to figure out how to get to B prime. So let's take care of our horizontal movements first. What do I have to do to get from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to the left? So I know I went left 8. And now what do I have to do to get up to B prime? I have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess I kind of lied to you. I thought I wouldn't have to cross through the interior, but I went horizontally first. So sorry about that. We did have to cross through, but hopefully that doesn't confuse you too much. And I had to go up 5. So my official answer here is left 8, up 5. But unfortunately, it doesn't answer it because I'm supposed to write the translation rule. Well, if I'm in translation notation, x comma y, to go left 8, I'd have to subtract 8 from the x coordinate. To go up 5, I have to add 5 to the y coordinate. In vector notation, that's a negative in the x position and a positive 5 in the y position. And in transformation notation, capital T with a subscript negative 8, comma 5.